Welcome to Raising Daughters, the podcast that helps parents learn the best ways to support their daughters as they navigate the high levels of stress, anxiety, pressure, and uncertainty so pervasive in our culture today. Dr. Tim Jordan is a developmental and behavioral pediatrician who has specialized in counseling girls for over 30 years and sheds light on the realities of today's young women in all facets of their lives. This is your opportunity to learn how to better support your daughters, making them feel safe, secure, and truly loved in the midst of life's ups and downs. Here is your host, Dr. Tim.
Hey friends, Dr. Tim Jordan back here with a brand new episode of Raising Daughters. And I've got a treat for you today because sitting around my desk here in my office studio are three high school women. One of them is a freshman. She's just about next week to start high school. And the other three are two seniors and one, are you in fourth grade? And one sophomore. And I thought it'd be interesting for our freshman girl here to ask these girls some questions about what's it like to start high school. Because I know a lot of your daughters, they may have already started because of when this podcast comes out, but they may have some worries about starting high school, questions about starting high school. So I thought I would allow these three girls to give some information that you can give to your daughters, or let your daughters listen to this podcast once you've listened to it to make sure you think it's valuable for them. So thank you so much, first of all, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, as a incoming high school freshman, you start in a week, right?
Yeah.
Or next week.
Mm-hmm.
So what's foremost on your mind?
Just like finding a new group of people to hang out with, new friends, because I don't know if this is, I'm sure a lot of other people starting high school kind of maybe have friends from middle school that are going into high school with them, but I'm at a new high school, so I don't know anyone. So that's kind of my forefront on my mind.
I would guess too, and some of you had different situations you started. Even if you were in a public school, for instance, sometimes there's 2 or 3 middle schools that dump into a high school. So it shakes everything up, and you may not have classes with your best friends. So I don't think it's just people starting brand new or fresh that's on their mind. Is that true for you guys?
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
So what was that like for you three starting high school as far as worries about friends?
For me, my high school was connected to the middle school, or like it is connected to the middle school. So like the middle school classes, they'd be like, the grade would be like 30 people, but then in high school it would jump to like 70 or 80 people. So it was like the same school and the same environment, but like we'd get like over double the people coming in. I don't know. I just remember like feeling, oh, they're going to throw everything off. The vibe is going to be weird. I don't know. It was just like, we had something set up, but then everybody knew that it was going to change. And that was a weird feeling to be like, everybody, it was like collectively knew that our space that we had created was going to change, but it didn't change. Like it changed for the better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm curious, what were people like those first few weeks in high school? No matter if they had been to the school previous or if it was a brand new school. I always tell girls that sometimes people are a little squirrely those first few weeks because it's a new thing, it's changed, people feel a little insecure. So sometimes you don't get their best. Do you think that's true or not true?
I would say true. Yeah.
In what way?
First week, people are usually really quiet in classrooms because they're all nervous and don't want to talk because they don't know what to say. And then the next couple weeks, it's still awkward just because you're still trying to get used to the feel of school and being back and everything. Even like freshman year too, like either way, it still has that sort of effect just because it's a step up from middle school, but it's also, there could be new people. So no one knows really what to do or how to act.
How about for you?
For me, I just feel it's a great mindset to be in that even though everyone's got different backgrounds and different stories coming in, they're all in the same position. In the end of the day, you're all freshmen. It's your first day of high school. You don't know, nobody knows what to expect. So the feelings are similar, whether you have a good friend group or not. And me personally, I came from a middle school where about 95% of the students went to a different high school than me. Oh. And I literally only had my little friend group. And going in, it was really nerve-wracking, not knowing whether I was going to have classes with them, whether I was going to have lunch with them. I really barely knew anyone. But by the end of the year, I did find a solidified friend group. And I have so many people that have my back and are just they treat me really well, and it honestly just comes with time.
I'm wondering about you because you're starting school. Have you heard horror stories about high school, about how people get hazed or the freshmen get treated bad or whatever? I'm just curious if you've heard stories that makes you nervous.
I think it's a universal stereotype that like freshmen are picked on. So yeah, but coming from a smaller Catholic school where everybody knows everybody, and I feel like every school is interlinked. You hear about if one thing happens and there's like drama at one school, like all the schools know about it.
Oh,
So I feel like I've heard a lot of stuff about just drama that gets like thrown around and circulates because everybody knows everybody. But I'm going to a public school, so I feel like that's a little bit lessened, that worry. But yeah.
because it's bigger?
Yeah, because it's bigger and it's a school in St. Louis. So I feel like it is still tied in with people knowing people, but it's not as interlinked in that like circle of Catholic schools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly, like I feel like that's like good because the private school circle is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And because like what you were saying, like everybody really like you hear stuff about like people throughout all those other like private schools, and it's like such a weird like culture thing.
Yeah.
So they're that connected.
Yeah, because people know because they're smaller. And so you have to go like outside of those schools to sometimes find the people that you connect with most. And that's the case for a lot of people. So people just know those people and it's weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do you navigate that? So you go to a public school,
Yeah.
you go to a private school, you go to a public school, and you go to a public. So 3 publics and 1 private. So how do you navigate that? The worry about if anything happens, it's going to be everywhere.
Ooh, I don't know. I just try to avoid people that are very in drama all the time. Just because most of the time when that type of stuff happens where like things get around and like other people from other schools find out about it, it's mainly because certain people that are always drama filled start drama and spread it. So I don't know. For me, I mind my own business and I don't associate myself with those people just because, I don't know, it's just a waste of time.
But you guys?
For me, it's just, I feel like everyone, especially like now going into sophomore year, but going into freshman year as well, like once all the like excitement was just like drained and stuff, everyone really just like focused on themselves, and everyone's changing, everyone's learning, everyone's growing, and really just like focusing on like you and yourself just kept me out of all the drama, because there was drama, but I don't feel like it was as bad as maybe it was in middle school. In high school, I definitely enjoyed high school better. I had a lot of fun my freshman year. There's a lot more freedom and just, the worries of just drama being spread and like all that, it just went away for me the more I focused on myself.
True or not true? A lot of girls I talk with, they think when they walk in the building, everybody's looking at them and judging them and all that. But in reality, what you're saying is a lot of us, they're more focused on themselves than they are about everybody else. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think that progresses though as you go through high school. Like that becomes more true. Like each like grade that you go up. Because I feel like freshman year, everybody is very like external because they're all in that same position of looking out for themselves and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like the more that you progress through high school, the more you don't like care about that stuff because you're not in that position anymore of the newbie and stuff.
So how did you take care of yourselves when in that freshman year when maybe it was more external, I'll use your word? How did you guys take care of yourselves so you didn't get sucked into it? Like you avoided people, but anything else that you guys did besides?
I don't know. I'm trying to think.
I would say I just focused on like the things I enjoyed. So like even if that was as simple as like art class, like just doing art, cheerleading, focusing on myself at dance, just like participating in the things that I know I enjoy and I excel at helped me focus on myself more. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
For me, like with that, like nerves and stuff for my freshman year, every day, even like the first week of school, I just focused on finding my friends and sticking with my friends that I had like already had from 8th grade. Or even as the year went on, the new friends that I made, I still focused on finding them everywhere I went. Because when I was with them, I didn't worry about everything else and everybody who would be quote unquote looking at me, which was, I don't know, for me, it was nice just have that feeling.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you have any worries about the academic part of high school?
For sure. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to excel at everything and do the absolute best that I can in every subject. And like high school, I know that it's going to be like harder, but I don't know how much more difficult it's going to be. But yeah, I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself. So I'm like nervous about, classes and maybe not excelling at certain ones.
Were you guys worried when you started high school that it was going to be a lot harder and the teachers are going to be a lot more strict and less lenient and all that? Do you guys have worries about that when you started?
Yeah.
And then what'd you do? What'd you all do about that? How'd you get through? Or did you find that was true?
Honestly, for me, I found that going into freshman year, I had all those worries, but the like jump from 8th grade year to freshman year was like not that bad. And it wasn't like freshman year to sophomore year was a harder like transition academically than like freshman year or 8th grade year to freshman year. Because I feel like freshman year, it's like your prep year. Like you're in high school, but it's also like your prep year for high school, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably not AP classes yet, and there's probably less honors classes and those sorts of things. So it's maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't as big a leap as sometimes people worry about.
Yeah, like looking back on it, like in freshman year, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in high school or whatever. But now, like looking back at it, like freshman year, like I did not act like a high schooler. Like I did not feel like one. Like, yeah, it was really like the training grounds.
Yeah.
I wrote something down too. We talked about this at one of the weekend retreats about a year ago. You may have been there. It was for middle school girls, and they started talking I think it was on a Saturday night, about just being harassed by boys at school in the hallways and things. You were there, weren't you?
I probably was.
Yeah.
It was a middle school one.
I remember that there was a lot of emotions that were shared about how all their experiences they had. And I'm wondering if, now that you're going up a level, and you're not going to be with 8th graders this year, you're going to be with 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Do you ever think about that part?
Yeah. I feel like that's something that's always on my mind, like when I'm in any space, but I don't know. It's not like one of my main concerns, to be honest. And I think it's just because I like tend to really I'm very careful about who I surround myself with and the type of people that I'm around and the type of boys that I don't like hang around guys a lot, really at all, which is I just don't like to. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely on my mind, but it's not something that I'm like super worried about.
Okay. What was you all's experience? I'm curious about as freshmen going into the big high school with upper class boys and girls. Did you guys have bad experiences ever?
For me, not really. I feel like it was a lot worse for me in 8th grade just because, I don't know, middle school guys, it's just, for me at least, I felt like they paid less attention to me and like other people in high school than in 8th grade because they were like, oh, I'm in high school, like I'm cool now type of thing. Whereas like me, I don't know. It was just school. It was just another day at school for me. So I didn't have to worry about it too much. And I feel like as you go on throughout high school, it's like that. Like they just leave you alone unless like you're friends with them, obviously. But yeah.
How about you?
For me, I did have a lot of harassment and bullying in 8th grade by boys specifically. When I got to high school, it helped that I went to a different high school, but genuinely I feel like especially within the upperclassmen, they all find like a sport and they get really attached to their sport. And they a lot of them, majority of them, mature in a way to where they want a good future with their sports. So I'm talking basketball, baseball, football, even wrestling, big sports. All these boys join them and they make their priorities the sports. And I feel like they don't really focus on girls that much, and they don't really just have the time or the energy or just the need to make fun of girls or to just get that attention from girls because they get the attention from their sports and then they see a future with their sports. And I know, just saying from all what my friends have said, because I do have a lot of guy friends and they all really do like their sports. So I had very little problem with guys in high school, specifically the guys that go to my school. Yeah.
I feel like I dealt with a lot of that kind of thing in middle school, 8th grade, 7th grade, later years of middle school. So I'm going to a different school than all of the guys who were like that in middle school. But I feel like I just picked up like ways to avoid that and handle it better because I experienced a lot of it in my later years of middle school.
What'd you learn for the parents who are listening to this and or the girls?
I think I mean, my school wasn't always the best at handling it the way that they were supposed to and taking the steps on their part that they probably should have been to like handle a lot of the bullying and like harassment that was going on. But I learned definitely like how to speak up about it more and how to get them to stop and use my voice better, I think, just in general, because it wasn't always being like heard by the school.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, that schools don't handle it.
Yeah.
And then, quote unquote, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think also a big part of it is also like knowing that like boys in high school, they do stuff like that just because like they want attention and they want to feed their egos. And so like just knowing that like you don't have to give them that attention back, even if it like gets on your nerves. Don't expend your energy because that's what they want. And like they want that attention because that's what gives them like their personality and like that attention that they want. And also just knowing like who you are and knowing like in yourself that you're way above that. And that's very fulfilling to be like looking back at the end of the day when you go home, you're like, they're all just being really stupid, but I know that I'm like amazing. And I'm way above that level. So I don't have to stoop down to that because then you just don't have to give them that energy. And then you feel more like validated in yourself.
Yeah, no, that happened with me a lot in 8th grade. There was this one guy that was just always on me all the time. And I just acted like I didn't care. And he just, over time, he stopped doing it. And I think one day I made fun of him back and he tried to hurt me because this was during COVID when we had the weird dual thing for school where it was like online and in school. There was one day when we were in class and he said something to our teacher and I made fun of him for whatever he said. And he tried to get back at me and make fun of the color of my mask. And I was like, it's pink. What do you like? I don't know. Because he was trying to say, you have the same color mask as my sister. And I was like, it's a pink mask. Like, I'm pretty sure like a bunch of people have a pink mask.
Like 10 million.
Yeah. I don't know. But things like that, like, I don't know. That too, you could also like, if you know the person, if you're comfortable, just go back at them because I feel like me doing that made him leave me alone more.
But they want that like quick, like instinct reaction that you have, the like defensive reaction. So I feel like as long as you take like just a half a second to be like, get rid of that defensiveness aspect and then be like calm and collected, they'll be like, damn, I'm not going to mess with it. It's the like defensiveness and the like offensiveness and the kind of scrappy, I don't know how to say, like the scrappy like vulnerability.
Yeah, showing
that
you
they latch onto,
showing that you care about what they're doing.
Yeah,
they latch onto that a lot,
and it's
or that it gets to you.
Yeah, or that it gets to you, but being like calm and just being like direct. Oh my gosh, like high school boys get so afraid of that. They do.
It catches them off guard and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, when someone is composed, they don't know how to do that. Like, they really
It's like you keep your feathers, like we learned at camp, right? Don't give your feathers away. I'm curious about you three. Looking back, is there anything you wish you had known before you started high school that you didn't know that you know now?
For my school, at least, the teachers really weren't that strict. And like during lunch and stuff in middle school, we weren't allowed to have our phones. And if we had them, we would always be like, get told, you guys this isn't going to pass in high school. Literally no one cared. We were able to get up and get, like during lunch, we were able to get up and get our own food. We didn't have to raise our hand and go up there. The teachers obviously teachers have their own rules, but some teachers just didn't care if we had our phones out or like on our desk or something. And they were a lot more chill than my middle school teachers were making it seem like.
I would say teacher relationships are super important and like knowing how to interact with your teacher and like seeing their personality and like developing that relationship, but then also like finding a teacher who like you really like connect with and vibe with. That's something that I did in high school. Like I found 2 teachers who I like really connected with and I would go to like their classroom after school and I would just like chat with them, and it's still like on that like professional level, but like you still like, I don't know, it's a good thing to have and it makes you feel more connected. Also, I have one more. What was it?
For me, I know this is going to sound really cliche because it is, but knowing that it's okay to not be okay, like knowing that there are classes and subjects that I'm going to struggle with, and there are relationships that I'm going to get in that aren't the best, friendship or like romantic. And just knowing that in the end, there are people out there to talk to and to guide you. There's so many trusted adults that I have, like not only my parents, but like camp counselors and teachers and the counselors at school. Like they all just helped guide me through all my like roadblocks, and I was able to overcome them. And that was something I was afraid of, because growing up through each grade, it's like you're in fourth grade and the teachers tell you your fifth grade teachers aren't going to do this. Like they're not going to deal with this. You need to mature up. And then in fifth grade, they're like, all middle school teachers, like they're not going to deal with your crap. You're not going to get recess. Like you need to be more mature. You get into middle school and they just prep you for every single grade. And then in eighth grade, they're like, oh, high school teachers, they won't stand by that. You need to change. And then you get into high school, and the amount of freedom, I just had so much fun being able to go to lunch and get my own food without having to be called on by the teacher, being able to like have just open conversations with my friends. Even hard to explain, but the amount of freedom I had, I just felt like I was able to be myself without having someone constantly hovering over me.
Yeah.
The independence is really like a beautiful thing, and like the culture shift, like we don't raise our hands in class anymore. Like you just like you all have that like mutual respect for each other. But I also think that the part that you were saying in the beginning about like letting go of perfection is really important, because like I was someone who was like, my freshman year, I was like all A's, all A pluses. I did not have a single B, not even a B plus. Oh my God, that would have made me so bad. And then my junior year, I got like a B plus. And I don't know, that was just like a journey that I had to go through of like
A B plus?
several actually.
Oh.
It was like, no, but seriously, like it was a journey that I had to go through, knowing that I still did my best and that's okay. And my grades, like, they're still good, but as long as at the end of the day you're proud of what you're doing and you know that like you tried your hardest, like whatever's on the sheet like doesn't matter. Also the same with like how you portray yourself as your person, like that goes for your grades, but also how you carry yourself. Like as long as you're proud of how you present yourself to the world, it doesn't matter what's on that.
Yeah. Another thing that I wish I would have known or had someone tell me is that if you believe that every year you go through high school that your classes are going to just get harder and harder, they will. But if you just go through it and just all easy breezy and just go with the flow, they really aren't as bad as like you have been telling yourself. Because my freshman year, after my freshman year, going to my sophomore year, I was like, this is going to be so much harder. I don't know if I can do this. But then sure, yes, some classes I had my strengths and the others I really didn't, but it wasn't as bad as I had been telling myself. Same with junior year. Yeah. I had a B plus in algebra. And I've never, at the end of the year, at the end of my finals, and I've never had a B in math probably since middle school. So that was definitely like a huge like milestone for me. Just like being easy breezy and not telling myself it's going to be difficult made it easier for me to like really focus on what I was learning and understand it better.
And also not being afraid to ask for help, because I feel like we've been talking a lot about like gaining that independence. And I feel like with going into high school, you feel like you've gained a lot of independence and you don't want to let that go by asking for help. But I think that there's something like very like strong and also shows that you are able to become more independent and like you're growing up by being able to ask for help, whether that be with like schoolwork or in your personal life. But just like, don't be afraid to do that, because that's something that's really important. And if you don't ask for that help, then you will wear yourself down and your classes will start to become harder, and then that will like
yeah.
I think one of the things you said earlier was that life happens, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't be thinking, oh my God, it's going to be so hard and the classes are so hard and all. I wouldn't be thinking worst case. I would just say stuff will happen and I'll be able to handle it. And if I need help, I can learn to advocate. I did a recording. I don't think you guys, it wasn't you guys. It was some people from group the year before. They were talking in group one time. You were there and maybe you too, but they were talking about being afraid to grow up.
Oh yeah. I was here for that.
I couldn't remember who it was.
I was in that podcast.
They were so intense about, oh my God, I want to grow up. I was like, we need to talk about that in the podcast. And one of the things that I remember, and if I remember wrong, you tell me. I remember towards the end, what they said was that they felt like one of the reasons why they were so afraid to grow up was because their parents had done too much for them, that they had, solved their problems and they had done too many things. So they didn't have the confidence to make decisions and stuff because the schools, the system, your parents, everybody had done that for them. So they didn't feel prepared to be an adult, quote unquote. So I guess that'd be one of the things I would say. When stuff happens, do the best you can. If you need help, like you all are saying, don't be afraid to ask. Whether it's a teacher or a school counselor or your parents or whomever, it's okay to reach out and get help, not because I'm forecasting that, oh my God, it's going to be horrible, but just because your whole life stuff will happen. If you learn in high school how to take care of yourself and or reach out for help in order to take care of yourself, then I think when you graduate from high school, you'll be ready for the next step, which is so much harder when you graduate.
No, because we're almost there.
I know.
Right.
I'm so scared. But also,
See,
don't be afraid though to ask for help. I know we've been saying that, but everybody struggles. And so even if you think that you're like the only one struggling, I don't know how many people are going to be at your school, but let's say thousands of people or like hundreds of people in your school that'll be struggling too.
And it's so mature and it takes so much strength to ask for help. And I just don't want to undermine that because it's such a part of growing up is learning how to ask for the right kind of help from the right kind of people.
Are you good at that? Or is that easy for you or is it hard?
I think it's hard for me sometimes because I want to be able to do it by myself. But yeah.
Which is good. It's good to want to solve your own problems and all. But I guess what you guys are saying is there's a point at which it's okay, now I've exhausted my toolbox or I need more help.
Yeah.
Or like when you had all those problems, at some point people didn't stop. Whatever they were doing, bullying you and all that kind of thing. Any other question you have as an incoming freshman that you would want some advice from these?
One that I wrote down was like how I'm nervous about falling in with the wrong group of people. And because I don't know, I know that a lot of people from probably the middle school already have maybe their groups and stuff. And I know that there's going to be lots of new people and plenty of people who are feeling the same way as me. But I feel like I'm going to be left out in the fact that like I'm not sure what groups are what. 'Cause I feel like there's a lot of clickiness and assigning labels to certain groups of people, and I'm not going to know like where to go, or I shouldn't hang out with them because they're like not
Naughty.
a cool, like not a good group to be around. I'm just scared to fall in with people that are super like drama invested and chase that type of thing. Yeah. Just not knowing like who my people are.
How would you guys answer that?
When she first said that, the first thing that came to my mind was something that you tell us all the time, which is your vibe attracts your tribe, which is so cliche. And it's, oh my gosh, she's saying that. But it's so true. I don't know. I feel like the most important part, and I don't know, I feel like I said this, but I just want to reiterate it. Like the most important like part is like, it's your life. And like the journey of it is finding who you are. And that's going to change throughout periods of your life. But knowing who you are in this period of your life and really having that self-awareness, is gonna be what attracts the kind of people that you want. So I would say focusing on yourself. Yeah. Because if you don't know who you are, then you're gonna attract like all these kind of different things that you want.
I am gonna piggyback off of what you said because I had the same thought. I was gonna say finding people that just match your vibe. And again, like you said, that sounds very cliche, but you can feel it when you don't match with someone. And I wish I would have had the guts to, I guess, admit that freshman year because I didn't. And then I wasted my whole freshman year being friends with a girl that was not a very good person. That was very drama filled. And I'm no longer friends with her or this other girl who's very drama filled. And I have two really close friends and they're not in either of the same friend group, but honestly, I like that. So if you ever find yourself in a position like that where you have like different friends from like other friend groups, I don't want to say necessarily don't be afraid or don't feel bad just because you have two different friend groups. Because honestly, I feel like it's nice sometimes because you can get a break from like hanging out with one and then hang out with the other.
Yeah.
For me, they explained it beautifully, but
A lot of cliches in there.
I did walking into freshman year, I did have probably 5 or 6 girls that I was pretty good friends with. Never really had any problems with, but I did still feel like alone. I did feel like I had nobody I could just go and lean on or nobody I can go and rant my problems to. Even though they were there, it felt like I was alone. And I still had the best year of school I probably have ever had. And I did end up finding so many people, and I really did do it by just being myself. I really just expressed who I was. I took the classes that I like. I took art, I took food, I took things that I enjoy, and I attracted other people that were in those classes that have the same interests as me, and I made a lot of friends from it. And the relationships I have are really healthy. So you just gotta trust the process. It comes with time, but you just gotta trust not only yourself, but that you have the power to choose.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it, but yeah,
Also-
you just have so much power.
Also, like knowing that like throughout your high school journey and like in life, like it's okay to outgrow people sometimes. And sometimes people like are in your life and you want to hold on to them because you had such good memories with them, you had such a good time with them. And this might be a little off topic, but sometimes it's okay to recognize that they were there in that moment for when they needed to be, but you're a different person now and you've grown. And you're no longer at the same level, and it's okay to recognize that and then go and attract and find other people who are at that same level.
I would also say though that since you are going to a new school and you said that none of your friends are going to the school, right? I would, what you just said a minute ago about like the picking classes that you like and everything and finding people that way, I think is a really good idea. Because that's what I did my sophomore year, because I tried to do my freshman year, but it didn't work out for me. But I joined choir my sophomore year. It's my favorite thing in the world. I've done it since elementary school. And I found one of my best friends in that class and some other of like friends that I go to school with too in that class. And they are the reason that I like enjoy that class so much and that I keep going and joining that class just because, I don't know, they make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
You've probably heard me say this at camp, so I apologize if I bore you. But I think if you walk in the building next week and you do your best to be yourself, like they're saying, and be authentic, whatever that looks like for you, that whoever you attract will end up being someone who's a good friend because they like you. If you walk in there and try and be somebody else, you're trying to fit in or you're some avatar of who you are, then you might attract people, but they're not attracted to you. They're attracted to this version of you that's not really you.
It won't feel real.
Yeah.
And that sounds so easy, and maybe it's not that easy. Also, I was thinking that I lost my train of thought. Something about what you said a minute ago. If I don't think about it, I'll think about it. I'll remember. Any other questions that you have for these old people?
I think the ones that I wrote down were ones that you had.
Oh, I know it was. Can I say?
Yes.
Trust yourself. You said, I'm not sure. I don't want to attract quote unquote bad people or people that I would trust that your gut, that you do know yourself. Because I know you know yourself and you're very mature. So I would trust your sense of, I can read people and I'll just trust that I will be able to tell. And I would base it solely on your observations. Because when you walk into a school, you're going to hear stories probably. There's old rumors and old stories about somebody from 4th grade or 8th grade or something. And people change, people grow up. So I would base it only on what you're seeing that day. And don't worry about what you've heard about them, maybe from some other group. I'd give everybody a fresh start.
Yeah.
Gut instinct is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, and it's always because it's coming from in you.
Yeah.
That's what your body is physically telling you that you need.
And your body will show you in different ways. So whether it's like when you're with those people, you have like a stomach ache, you're nervous all the time. Because one of my friends, she was in a relationship, but every day she would go to school anxious and have a stomach ache and all this stuff. And now she doesn't get those anymore because it was because of that guy, because she was so worried about all of that and what he thought and everything.
But it's really hard though, because your head fights it sometimes.
Yeah, it is really hard. It is, but I don't know. For me, just because I'm so self-aware of that stuff, it's easy. But for people that aren't, it is a hard thing. But I don't know.
There's probably a transition. You may feel a little bit more lonely the first few weeks or the first month, maybe, because you don't know anybody yet. And even if you meet some people, you don't really know them. They're not close to them yet. So you may not be able to, like you said before, lean on them or like you would your best friends from your old school. So you may have to pass through a time where you're a little bit more lonely and a little disconnected, but just trust that I'll find my people. It might be through a class. It might be through, if you join something, it might take a little while, but I think if you're patient and you trust your gut, you'll attract people.
Also, I just want to say that like high school isn't going to be your whole world.
Yeah.
And like it's going to be there and like you're going to have to do that on your day-to-day. But also there's people outside of that. There's like camp people and like there's stuff like that. I don't know. It's easy to like sometimes they'll get drowned out and be like, oh my God. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Which I'm thankful for the fact that I have a really solid group of friends outside of I have a couple friends coming from my old school, but I wasn't super connected to anybody in like elementary through middle school. So I'm feeling okay about the fact that I have my camp friends and yeah.
I also wonder too, because you guys know her, you might end up attracting like sophomores or juniors or people who are a little older, maybe just because you're mature, and you're probably more mature than most people who are entering their freshman year of high school, from what I've known about you for the last several years. Maybe just, it doesn't really matter what grade they're in. It's just a matter of who you connect with. Any other final question?
I don't think so.
So you ready to start high school?
I'm so ready.
Got your backpack full of cliches. I think the part about trusting yourself, the part about being patient, not buying into some of these myths about how it's so much harder. And I hear that all the time about how teachers warn, like you all said, all along the way, oh, you think that's hard now, wait till, but then you get to that next place. It's okay.
It's like, it was so easy.
It's like, why
what
would
are
you put that in my mind? Like, they want you to fail. Like, why would you say that? Like,
I am glad that I became friends with the senior my sophomore year, because that obviously the next year she was going into college and she goes to community college, but being able to talk to her about how that is, because even now, like, teachers will still be like, college is way different. You guys, if you keep acting like this, you're not going to do good. But then my friend, she just tells me, like, as long as you show up and do your work, they don't care, which I really like that. And she has really good teachers too.
And plus, for most people, especially for high school, it's not like they imported the smartest people from every country to be in your class, and you're going to be competing against these people who are all going to get 36s on their ACT without even opening a book. It's like the same people, right? It's similar to people to what you did. So if you did okay academically where you came from, then you'll do good, fine academically wherever you're going to.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for your suggestions to our little baby freshman girl here. And you're going to have a good start. I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
If it's a little whatever at first, that's okay. That's just like you say, it's just part of it.
It is.
It's like when you start.
it's always going to be whatever.
I've been talking to a lot of. I had coffee in the last week with several people who are starting college, and that too. But they're starting college, and they're all anxious. There's so much uncertainty and all that again because they're starting fresh. But that's part of it. When you start something new, there's going to be some uncertainty, and that's just what happens in life. You just learn how to deal with that. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you all who are listening in. This might be a good podcast to listen to with your daughter to spur some conversations about maybe what's on her mind. Even if she started already, she's been in school for a week or two, it's okay. It's still fresh. Maybe it spurs some conversations about what she's doing, how she's taking care of herself, etc. This is a good one, I think, to listen to with your daughter. I will be back, as always, with a brand new podcast in a week. I appreciate you stopping by each week. If you have some ideas about podcast ideas for me to cover in the future, then email me at my wife's website. It's Anne@drtimjordan.com. That's Anne, ANE, @drtimjordan.com, with ideas about topics you'd like for me to discuss. And once again, thanks so much again for stopping by.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Raising Daughters. Hopefully you've learned something useful about girls and young women and how to help them navigate the pressures, challenges, and opportunities of modern life. If you want to become a more effective parent, keep listening to the show at drtimjordan.com and let the conversations shape you. Build that one-of-a-kind connection with your daughters in the most profound and meaningful ways possible, shaping them into strong, confident women of the future. That's all for now. See you next week for another episode of Raising Daughters.